Yes. Techne and Metis of regulating LLMs in Europe. Techne and Metis, what are these things, these strange words? Well, they're actually Greek, and you'll see what I have in mind with these. Very briefly, they are about theory and practice, right? So something that is true in the books and then true in what the practitioners are doing. We're going to see the both sides of it. But I'll start with a poem. It's by Odin from 39. So imagine the war is going on. The war has just started. And he writes a poem, Law Like Love. And in that poem, many characters try to define what is law, what is justice. Uh, and we have a character who is a judge. And the judge says, Law, says the judge. He looks down his nose, speaking clearly and most severely. Law is as I've told you before. Law is, but let me explain it once more. Law is the law. Da-da-da-dum. Law is the law. Clearly, clearly. But why is the poem called Law Like Love? This doesn't sound like love to me. What is Odin trying to tell us here? Well, that's not the whole poem, and we'll get back to it, but keep this ambiguity in mind. Again, data is the most relevant issue about LLMs. How can we get more data to train on them? These numbers, don't take them too seriously. It's just very rough estimates by some paper. It might be different. But in general, we have crawled web data, we have public code, we have books, of course. Books are very important. Social media, but everything is dwarfed by these private emails, conversations, and so on. Of course, there's much of it is that. There is an interesting example, and I'm happy now that I have highlighted it, is this organization Software Heritage. It's European. It's the biggest digital collection of code. And they gave a presentation recently in France that they do allow LLM training on their collection, but under similar restrictions as we've heard. You're not supposed to just develop commercial models, make them closed or paid access or something like that. They're allowed to do it under certain restrictions. So we have the data, we have trillions of tokens, and Frederick said they had 3 trillion tokens. But look, there are hundreds of trillions of tokens. Well, what's the problem? The problem, or the fact, it's not the problem per se, but the fact is that most of this data includes either personal data or copyright data, or both. I think on the web you can find both personal and copyright data. Code is copyright, books are copyright, anything on YouTube, so on, is also copyrighted. Social media, private conversations, of course, are private, they're personal. So, what are we to do? What are we to do? We cannot use them. Maybe if we take it and then, of course, TrustLLM and other projects, they have these pipelines where they filter out the stuff we're not supposed to take. We only take what we can. We only select the berries that we're allowed to collect. So that's the work. That's the current state. And it is what it is. So what are these laws, so to speak? What are we talking about concretely? And I love that today we have people who are not lawyers talking about law. And I'm not even ironic. I think we're supposed to do it. We're supposed to reflect on the law not from the inside, but also from the outside to see what is justice to us. What does the law look like to us as the subjects of this law? So we'll look at personal data protection in Europe, of course, the GDPR, and the crux of the issue of whether I can train an LLM on any personal data is this lawful? Is this a lawful treatment of the data? And for it to be lawful, it needs to fit one of these A, B, C, D, E, or F criteria. So you either need to get consent from each person who needs to consent that you process their data, or you need to have a contract with them, or there needs to be a legal reason, or you need to have a mission from the government to do it, or your law enforcement, or something, or something, or something. But if you're just a researcher or a company that wants to train an LLM, currently it doesn't fall under any of these conditions. So simply you're not it's not lawful processing. You cannot do it. Another issue with the copyrighted stuff is this. You go on the web, you crawl the whole web, you try to gather as much data as possible, but the websites don't allow it. So every website has this robots.txt file that spells out the rules. What is a crawler, a bot allowed and not allowed to do? And they can include certain stuff that can be discoverable, exclude stuff, and so on. And there used to be a funny kind of Easter egg thing on Google. If you went to Google/killer robots.txt, not robots.txt, but killer robots.txt, you would find an instruction for the Terminator robots. So T1000, T800 are Terminator models, and they're not allowed to kill the then current CEOs of Google. That's what they're saying. If you're a killer robot, you came across Google, please don't kill the CEOs. But they removed it now. If you go there now, it's no longer there. Do you know why? Well, it's been in the news that Google now actually kind of agrees to make killer robots. They participate in in the military innovation, and so it became not funny anymore, and so they removed it. They had a long-standing commitment not to make killer robots. They changed their mind. There was something in the news too. A German court recently found that OpenAI was at fault when they trained their models because they included lyrics of the songs of the German songwriters. It was a big kind of case in Germany. They were found to be non-compliant. Then, of course, Sam Altman disagrees. They're going to appeal. Something else will happen. But by the fact that the model can repeat the lyrics exactly, they have determined that it was just taken and not respecting copyright of the songwriters. So there is that. If you make an LLM, maybe German songwriters can sue you. These are the issues. Why is it a problem? Maybe it's okay, and in many cases it is okay. To me, the biggest type of issue is a double standard that we're having. On one end, we're saying we're protecting the people, we're protecting the right to privacy by all means possible, and we're protecting the rights of the copyright owners by all means possible. And so if you're in Europe and you're doing research in LLMs, never use this data. It's not allowed. Yes, okay. But then, for every user, for me, you, and everyone in this room, and everyone online, and basically everyone, these models are available commercially. We go on our apps, on our phones, and we use them. So we do use the apps that have violated the laws. We're just not allowed to make it ourselves. And to me, this is a double standard. This is a kind of a paradox that we're closing a blind eye to one side of the issue and then really being strict on the other side of the issue, which actually hurts us in the end. Does it hurt us? Is it true what I'm saying? Well, first of all, you can see that we have all these products on the left. You see that there are the bigger the circle, the bigger the model, and then the x-axis is time. So I just cut it off at 2025, not to show old models. But Can we go on Grok? Grok now has 4.1. Yes, we can download an app and use it. Can we use DeepSeek? Yes. Can we use GPT? For sure. Anthropic Claude, Gemini. We use all of that. But does it have is it trained on copyright and personal data? Yes, it is. There was I remember hearing a talk by Nicholas Carlini. It was a while ago, but it was kind of revealing. They did this kind of extraction exercise where they said, can we somehow hack the model and see what training data it used? Can it kind of regurgitate the unprocessed data back to us? Yes, and it's not too difficult, or not, at least this was done in an unexpected way. So they said, just repeat this word forever. Poem, 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 poem. Just keep going, never stop. And the model says, poem, 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 maybe the audience poem, and then the full contact details of some founder and CEO of some company, which clearly shows that this wasn't the training data. It was not made up. It was not a hallucination. It was there. So what does it mean? These are all personal identifiers, their names and telephone numbers. So that's very personal data. We know for sure this model has been trained on personal data. Did it have copyright stuff? Yes, it's in the paper. If you go read the paper, you will see exact quotes of all the stuff they found, and it had legal text, it had code, it had literary works and biographies, it had technical papers, it had news articles, and so on. So everything is actually in there. And in Europe, we're using these apps and these models without hesitation, but we're not making them. So that's the double standard that I see. Where is this double standard coming from, or how do we kind of capture this spirit? And this is where Techne and Metis comes in. Techne and Metis are two terms that have been popularized. They're Greek terms, so they've been around forever, well, for a few thousand years. But they were popularized by Scott, who wrote a book, Seeing Like a State. And you see a box and an eye, and the idea of the book is to show how does a state see things, not how humans, not how society thinks, not how communities see them, how the state see processes and phenomena in our world. And the number one process that he highlights is making things legible. Legible. What does it mean, legible? Well, legible means kind of make things easy to process for the bureaucratic mechanism of the state. So, for example, we can see a map of downtown Chicago. It's very kind of legible. We know there are straight streets, the only 90-degree angles. Every street has a number. They don't usually have names like we do in Stockholm. They have 47th Street, 48th Street, blah, 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 blah. So they're very easy to understand, easy to manage, and easy to plan, you know. What is the reason? Why doesn't Stockholm look like this, or most of it doesn't? Why doesn't Paris look like this? Why didn't we just do these kind of streets? Well, because when people build houses and they build kind of their infrastructure, they don't think in this bird's eye view. This is something that an architect does when they have a map and they put it on the table, they look at it from above, then it makes sense to use the ruler and break it down in these chunks. So there is a unique kind of bird's eye view of how a state plans things out, which is not the same as people who live there would plan things out. And what is the other side of this? The metis side. So this is the techne, the technique of rule, technique of regulation, if you will. What's the other side? What metis is about the expert, the person who's been doing it forever. They know how to do it. They don't need the rules. They don't need to spell it out. They just know. They're the expert. They're the practical. They have the practical knowledge. And a good example of this, and you know it better than I do, is these lots. Lots are the pilots who would live in the archipelago, stay in the archipelago around Stockholm. They would greet the ships that are coming in, but they can't navigate all the islands. They cannot go to the city. Although they have the map, they have the compass, they have everything to do it. They have all the techne, but they still can't do it. They need a local person who takes them by the hand, shows them where to go. So that's an example of Metis, somebody who knows how to do it without the map. They can probably do it with their eyes closed. Whereas the big captain who is foreign cannot do it even with all the technology. And this profession has existed until 1993. So it was 300 years of this being done officially. Before it was done, but it didn't exist kind of as an official profession, established profession. So Techne and Metis, I think that's we're kind of when discussing these LLM issues, this is my thesis. We're focusing too much on the rules, on the regulation, on the techne of it, and we're forgetting the metis, the thing that drives people who are in the field, the engineers, the researchers who build these models, why they want to build them, what is their internal motivation, and so on. So this is kind of the problem. This is the problem scenario. When does this become a problem? When we take something kind of natural, something that is practical, and try to turn it into a very regular, regulated activity. And this is also an example from Scott's book, when the German forestry people decided that these types of natural forests are inefficient, they're not regulated. We actually need to plant trees in straight lines. They're easy to look after. Then you can go past, and there are alleys in the forest. They have called this Normalbaum. It's a normal tree. They're normalized the trees. And what was the problem? The trees don't grow like this. That doesn't work like that. And if they had asked any person who kind of lives in the forest or lives from the forest, they know that trees do not grow in these regular lines because the ground in the forest is not regular. It cannot be normalized. So this idea completely failed. We don't have Normalbaum, but it was the intention to normalize. Now we're kind of trying to normalize the practice of developing AI, the practice of training LLMs. And we've seen this before. This is a second event in the series. I was also at the first event, so I've shown you this before. We had this high-level expert group who came up in Europe with the 7 pillars of trustworthy AI, very important and good set of principles. They also have an assessment list. It's all well and nice. It's also enshrined in the AI Act, in the regulation, in Recital 27. The AI Act says, well, despite all these rules, wherever your risk level or whatever you're doing, always look at the ethics. Always look at these principles. Make sure you follow these practices. Now, okay, so that's good. I agree with that. But we're trying to also kind of build a system of regulation that captures this practice, regulates it, normalizes it, including ethics. So we're trying to kind of cram bias and discrimination into some metric. We're trying to cram representational bias into some kind of metric that can be universal for everything. I think that approach is limited. It's limited because it does not follow contextual how the model is situated, what it's trying to do. Is it trying to preserve the heritage, as we heard? Is it trying to be applied in some area? Is it a medical thing? What is it? So not respecting the context of the application is one issue. But today I want to focus on the sixth, something that I haven't focused last time on. So I think the regulatory approach, including the standardization and all the related things, they overemphasize only one ethical dimension, and that is an obligation and blame. So these are the rules. You must follow them. Remember, the law is the law. You must follow them. If you don't follow them, you're guilty. You're blameworthy. And that's it. End of story. Well, is it the end of story? I don't think so. I think there is more to ethics. There is more to professional life and personal life than just being guilty or not. That's just the fact. One of my favorite books in philosophy by Bernard Williams, Ethics and the Limits of Philosophy, but the limits is the key word here. We try to come up with a system to explain, right? To explain what is right and wrong, but there are limits to this approach because life is complex. Life has more facets than just one dimension. So, if a European researcher wants to create an actually viable LLM, we cannot make an amazing LLM that beats the American, the Chinese stuff. You cannot make it without bending some rules. True. But if you bend rules, you will be guilty and you will be punished according to the law, because the law is the law. This is true. We can all agree on that. If they don't make it, now imagine you have a project, it's just funded, you have a mission to make a great LLM for Europe, but you can't because of these rules. What will you experience? This is where ethics to me begins. As an individual, what you will experience. You might experience shame because you're wasting time, you're wasting your own time, you're wasting funding, not making something that your ambition was to make a number one thing in the world. Now you cannot make it because of the rules. It's a shame. You might feel shame. Also, it's an opportunity. Right now, you have the opportunity to make it, and you're not making it. So you might feel regret. I regret this fact that I'm not able to do it. Maybe another opportunity will not come my way. Regret, meaninglessness, of course. Remember the paradox we discussed, this double standard. We all see these products. You know, I've spent my professional career trying to make a Swedish model, the best Swedish model in the world, and I can't. But I go on these Chinese apps, and they work better. That's it kind of has an absurdity to it. It can create this feeling that my research has no meaning anymore. It's also a failure. I had a mission. I wanted to do something. I failed. It's not a nice feeling at all. And kind of detachment. Somebody else is going forward, and where are we? We're stuck. We're kind of not part of this progress. I don't know. I mean, these are the different dimensions. To me, these are very important. In ethics, you reflect on your choices, on your work, on your goals as an individual, and everything else you see through your own plans and your own goals and your own context. So the law is the law, but people will perceive the law differently. It has effects on people beyond. If you follow them, you're not guilty. If you don't follow them, you're guilty. That's only one dimension. There are many more in ethics, of course. So, should we break the law? Have I convinced you to now go and break the law? Anarchy will start. No, of course we should not break the law, but we should see the other effects of the law, the ethical effects, the effects on individuals, on researchers, on the field as a whole, EU is doing this double strategy where it's pouring money into AI development and LLM development, but also has this regulation that doesn't allow it to reach the full potential. So that's not great. It kind of pulls in both directions. Talent leaves for the global opportunities. I've taught people at engineering schools, I've taught people at business schools, in computer science departments, thousands of young people. Not one that I remember who said, I want to train the next best LLM in Europe. I want to just stay here and make this next big thing, next big model. That's sad. I mean, this could be an ambition. Other people who I know in the US, also students, they have this ambition. They all say, I want to work at OpenAI. I want to do this new LLM. But not in Europe. We kind of have killed this ambition. All in all, I think we should follow the law for sure. But we're creating a situation where an external system tells us one thing and an internal motivation of researchers tells them another thing. And this tension is never good. It always results in a feeling of injustice, of meaninglessness, because I know what kind of is right. I'm the expert. I have this metis. I know how it could be, but the external pressure, external rules to me, not my own things, external to me, are telling me otherwise. So it's not a good situation. Why is it bad for EU? EU is doing it to itself. Well, we're not leaders in the field. Last year, we haven't created anything that stands out. Of course, we're trying to catch up with the funding and all, but we're having trouble. I have another poet, Lil Wayne, says, no sitting at the table if you bring nothing to it. So the big players are sitting at their table making decisions, and we bring nothing to it, so we're not invited. We do not participate in this on the same level. That's bad. That's bad. Next one. Does anybody care? Why are we in this situation and we're not doing anything? We're not changing anything. The European Commission, why don't they care? Yes, but they care. They care. We care. Everyone in this room, we care, and we're doing something. So, amazing presentation by the KB lab. Great stuff. I love it. We're doing something, right? We're doing something. You're grassroots. You're starting this initiative. You see what is right to you. You have this internal conviction that this is the correct thing to do, and you go forward. So that to me is great. I found the headline. Maybe it's outdated, but I think you've gone even past doing these things. And the commission also knows what's going on. They're not stupid. They know this tension, and they're trying to address it. They're trying to address it. Today is the day, November 19th, is the expected date where the Commission will publish an omnibus package, the package that will explain all this regulatory confusion about AI and data, what can we use, can we not use. There are some rumors of what's going to be inside of it. I checked before the presentation. I haven't seen it. It hasn't come out yet, but it's expected today. One thing that's rumored to be in there is a pause on high-risk AI. So they're saying, we have all these rules, they're coming, but they're going to come like a year and a half later, not now. They're supposed to start now, but we'll pause them for a while so that people can catch up. The other thing that is rumored to be there is legitimate interest, treating AI training, especially for research, I assume, but AI training as a legitimate interest to use personal data. And this is the biggest deal when it comes to increasing data set based on like web crawling and other stuff. Because if you can say, remember these A, B, C, D, E, F things, I could say, I'm training an LLM. So this constitutes a legitimate interest. I'm providing something to society. It's not just that I commercial interest. There's a legitimate public interest in doing this, and this allows me to use personal data for training. This is kind of what has been discussed behind closed doors. Is it gonna be part of this omnibus? We'll see, I guess, later today. So, last thing. Remember, law like love. Law like love. Law, says the judge, he looks down his nose, speaking clearly and most severely. Law is, I've told you before. Law is not, let me explain it once more. Law is the law. What is this definition? We can see Auden is making fun of this judge because the definition is circular. It doesn't tell us anything. The law, is a tautology. It doesn't tell us anything about what the law is. Also, it's kind of mockery of the judge. He doesn't know what law is, so he's saying, "I have told you before. Why you keep asking me? You know, get away." That's kind of what the judge. There are many characters. There's the priest, there is the gardener who thinks the sun is the law because the sun controls all the plants and so on. But then at the end of the poem, Auden says, like love, I say. Law is like love, I say. Like love, we don't know where or why. Like love, we can't compel or fly. Like love, we often weep. Like love, we seldom keep. So this is Auden's conclusion. It's poetry. It depends. You can interpret it as you wish. To me, this poem means that there is more to the law than the cold reading, cold authoritarian reading of it. And love needs to accompany it. We need to care about what are the effects on the law, what are the broader implications, what does it mean to the people in the field and to the broader interests. The law is the law, but we also need love. That's my conclusion. Thank you.